Hi, this is the evaluation of the order trading system for March the 4th, 2021. We had 8 trades on that day, and 6 of them, actually I should go, 2 were buys and 6 were short sells. Okay, first trade was ADSK. That's Autodesk Incorporated. It tripped at 12:05:16 p.m. and it was a buy. It tripped at 272.26. It closed the day at 265.44 and actually was down 1.43%. We'll see if there's any opportunity here. 12:05. 272.24. Up. 272. 71.05. 12:16, 12:05. That's 10 minutes. So there's roughly about a 10-minute period at its peak period, where it was peaking, that it was above its tripping price. Not a great amount, but still enough to warrant a positive trade. And while I don't usually like to say that 10 minutes is good, I'll say it for this one because the stock itself came down afterwards, which shows you there's no opportunity afterwards. And it's hard to say if the stock would have done okay the day before. The markets were down yesterday, and you see early morning activity. The markets are still down, and they're actually down quite a bit across the board. All the indicators, market indicators on Yahoo are all showing fairly negative. So there's something going on that's obviously causing downward activity. Next trade is FHN. Excuse me. That is First Horizon Corporation. It tripped at 12:20:05 p.m. The price is 16.62. It closed the day at 16.32, down 3.20%. It closed below its tripping, so we have to see if there's any opportunity there. 12:20. So roughly around this area where it tripped, then came up. 1665. Yeah, stayed up. It came so 1242, 1220. So here's a 20-minute period. Again, roughly around its tripping price. It came up and stayed up above its tripping price for roughly 20 minutes, and to me that's more than enough time to indicate a positive result. But as you can see afterwards, it came down, and most likely is these positive trades are reversing or not showing continuation because the markets again were extremely down yesterday, which kind of like explains why the stocks were moving the way they're moving. So those two buy trades, while I'm considering them both positive, you can see that they ended the day moving downwards because of the market activity being very negative. Next trade is Bdlp. I didn't say that was a buy trade last one, but it was a buy trade. And you know what? I didn't look at the indicators. Okay, so sorry about that. So the first one, and I will look at the right sheet. First one, 12:05, okay. Yeah, OBV not aggressively. It moved up positive roughly around this period here, but again, not extensively. MACD showed you it came up, it was coming up one morning, and then that's where it dropped. But you can see, though, the afternoon period, it actually started coming up again. So this MACD showing very, somewhat, positive activity, so the stock wasn't moving bad. DI, again, that period where it came up and then a period it came down and moving back sideways in the afternoon. So DI is not too bad. It's almost half-half downwards and positive. It shows somewhat DI kind of like correlates to sideways movements, which we can sort of see at the end of the day it was moving sideways, but you can see it came up in Bollinger Band and came down and moved sideways. So that stock actually was not bad indicator-wise. OBV, again, a period of time where it came up and then dropped volume-wise. MACD, same thing. Look, it came up, tripped around the period of time where it tripped, came down, was down in the afternoon, and then, later afternoon it came back up again. So that's actually showing a good movement. And DI, yeah, DI again almost half and half, but again it's showing a good positive movement. At the end of the day it was actually moving positive again. In Bollinger Band, same thing. It came up, went down a bit, and then stabilized, came up there. So those two stocks, while they actually ended the day down, the indicators themselves were showing that they were still moving fairly consistently positive. So their result is they were still good stocks. So with that, even if these stocks didn't, move above its tripping price, they'd be probably a good indication of possible trades. Okay, so Bldp is the next trade. That's Ballard Power Systems Incorporated. It tripped at 1235.19 at a price of 23.67, and it was a buy trade. Excuse me, it was a short sell. So 23.67, 23.58, 22.70 down early morning. So we can see that the stock, negatively wise, for that day was moving negative and pretty much ended the day negative, so it should be moving down. OBV down, did have a bit of a recovery in the afternoon here. MACD, same thing. It came down sideways, recovered in the afternoon, and moved sideways. DI, DI, a good portion of the day it was negative, even though the end of the day it was making a bit of a positive recovery. But the big thing here is that the afternoon period where it was negative, it was very strongly negative, which kind of like correlates to the Bollinger Band just dropping in the afternoon, and it stabilized and moving sideways. Next trade is ABR. Again, excuse me. That's Arbor Realty Trust Incorporated. It tripped at 12:51:10 p.m. at a price of 16.04. It was a short sell, closed the day at 15.92, down 2.75%, so that's another positive trade. See if the indicators are showing direction. OBV a little bit not strong. You can see it's making a recovery in the day OBV wise. MACD showing it came down in the afternoon and made that recovery, so it did make a recovery at the end of the day. It kind of gives you the impression is the market reversing, but if you saw the market, it actually was down the whole day, very, very negative the whole day. So, and DI again, that spike, and it was actually very strongly negative during the tripping period. So that's there, and in the afternoon, DI showing somewhat moving sideways, back and forth between positive and negative, and Bollinger Band showing same and came down, moved sideways. Next trade is CCL. That's Carnival Corporations and PLC. It tripped at 12:55:08 p.m. at a price of 27.60. It was a short sell. Closed the day at 27.40, down 4.43%. It's also down early morning too, so that shows it. But again, we're taking a look at early morning market activity, showing that it's negative also. So the markets may not be recovering today. Okay, 12:55. Okay, yeah. LBV came down, moved sideways. MACD came down, bit of a recovery in the afternoon, but then end of day moved sideways. DI moving negative for a good portion of the day. In the afternoon, it did make a bit of a recovery, but looks like it bouncing back and forth just a little bit. But it was very negative, heavily negative, up to 70% negative on the DI. Bollinger Band, yeah, came down in the afternoon, moved sideways. Excuse me again. Next trade is DAL. That's Delta Airlines Incorporated. It tripped at 1:14 p.m. at a price of 46.74, and it was a short sell. Closed the day at 46.96, down 2.87%. So it closed above its tripping price, but you can see early morning here at 46.32, it moved down. So definitely this was possible because the day after it's moving positive, but we'll see if there's any point in the day that it was actually down a good portion. And it looks like it was. Look here, 158. It was down 45, down over $1. 45.92, 46.33, 46.60. So it didn't really recover back up above its tripping price till like almost 2 hours later. So that definitely was down more than enough time to get out positively on that one. Then check the indicators to see. Okay, so you can see the OBV came down, and that made the recovery in the afternoon. Same thing, MACD came down, made that recovery in the afternoon. DI showing that it came down in the afternoon and made that recovery in the afternoon. Again, very strongly negative though, which is a good indication that it was moving fairly heavily in the direction that it was moving, which was negative. Obviously, Bdlp came down, and that made that recovery and ended the day moving sideways. Next trade is BA. That's the Boeing company. BA tripped at 1:10:07 p.m. at a price of 225.86. Closed at 224.71, down 1.68%, and it's also down on the early morning by 0.97%. Oh yeah, the stock is negative for sure. End of the day negative. Just shows you yesterday was a down day. OBB came down, a bit of recovery in the afternoon it looks like. Same thing with MACD, came down, recovered a bit in the afternoon, moved sideways at the end of the day. DI down for most of the day. You can see in the afternoon it peaked negatively, and that's where we caught it. But you can see again, which has been consistent, that these negative trades have been very, very, very negative during their tripping period. This one up to 80% and then moving back for us. And Boeing was saying came down, moved sideways. Next trade is FITB. That's Fifth Third Bancorp. It tripped at 1:10:14 p.m. at a price of 35.14. It was a short sell. Closed the day at 35.56. So closed above its tripping price at down 0.97%. You can see it's making a recovery, even though it's still down from previous close. Well, it's down from this down here is negative, even though it's above its tripping price. So this stock actually was showing in positive direction, but we'll see if there's any activity after 110. Yeah, see, it came down after 35.07. Yeah, it came down, 34.54, 34.84, 35, 34. Yeah, so again, it stayed below its tripping price for over an hour. So there was more than enough time there to get out. We'll have a quick look at that. We'll check the indicators for that stock to see if it did. OBV is actually showing that it came down, stayed down. MACD up in the early afternoon, dropped, and then recovered in the afternoon. Mid-afternoon moved sideways. Same thing. But the good thing here is that, well, not it's a good thing. The stock was moving down, so for the company it's not good, but for the aspect of a short sell, this again was showing very strongly negative during the tripping period. So this stock was moving down heavily during this tripping period. And again, afternoon is activity here where it's showing it bouncing back and forth with somewhat of a downward sideways movement. And Bollinger Band, it came up and then dropped, came up, so almost like a W activity there. But the stock itself was down quite a bit. So. But again, it's the same DI showing across the board for the shorts. the same kind of same kind of indication and strong point negatively on all of them. They were all showing very negative in the tripping period. So those stocks were moving very negative. But again, the markets were down a lot yesterday. So that's somewhat as a response to that. So what that aspect is, that's 100%, because the two positive trades were not heavily positive, but there was still little 10 to 20 minutes period time between them to get out when they came positive. And all the negative stocks were basically just heavily negative across the board, which somewhat is an indication of the activity yesterday. So again, that was a good sort of activity for the day. Negative trades, but again, you could still short, and you could have made money. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.